Hi, I live down under in New Zealand. We're part of the approximately 5% of the world that are fluoridated, and yes, we do have a fluoride problem. With wonderful Google and the fact that most scientific research is readily available on the net these days, we probably have many millions of learned lay people, scientists in our world today. I'm sure we do. There is so much information now about fluoridation, it is almost overwhelming, with at least 80% of it proving, at least circumstantially, that fluoridation is a very bad thing. Most of the pro-fluoride science is old defunct bogus science, and yet those who are pushing for it still use the same old euphemisms that fluoridation was tagged back in the 1950s, maybe even earlier. It's safe and effective. That's a classic one. I'm so sick of that one. We have a very dedicated group of anti-fluoridationists in New Zealand, and the numbers are growing exponentially. However, recently 2 of New Zealand's biggest cities held a tribunal hearing on fluoridation, and horror of horrors, both councils voted overwhelmingly to cease fluoridation. Now here is a side of this that fits so perfectly with hydrofluorosilicic acid being a very dangerous and toxic poison. One city still had 2 months' supply left and the other 2 weeks. In both instances they were told that they were not able to send the fluoride back to the supplier, neither were they allowed to bury it or put it in the rivers, lakes or the sea, and were not allowed to burn it off either. The only choice left was for the people of these towns to drink it and bathe in it and water their gardens with it until it was all gone. Just recently a senior lecturer from Auckland University spoke briefly about fluoridation on our TV3 channel, and as always with the pro-fluoride people, they only give half the story. This woman said that we get natural fluoride from the sea, which is fish of course, from drinking tea, from springs, and putting it in the water is very beneficial for children's tooth development. One can absolutely guarantee that she knows very little about fluoridation, and the university probably receives some sort of funding from sources that promote fluoridation. She was wrong in the way she made it sound like fluoride was good for us. The answer to this is simple. Fluoride is not an essential nutrient, therefore the body does not want it or need it. She failed to tell us that the fluoride that's put into our water is not natural, but this hydrofluorosilicic acid, which is scrubbed from the smokestacks of the superphosphate works and then put into our water. She failed to tell us that unlike calcium fluoride, a natural form of fluoride, already has calcium attached to it, but hydrofluorosilicic acid searches out the calcium in our body and attaches itself to it. The pineal gland inside our brain is a good example, and excellent research has been done on this. This is sometimes called the third eye. It is critical to our well-being. She failed to tell us that the ingestion of fluoride is cumulative, and the more you take in, the more damage will occur. The United States that sold us on the idea of fluoridation are now languishing 29th out of 30 OECD countries. And that's pretty horrendous, really, isn't it? Auckland's Dr. John Colquhoun, who was the Chief Dental Officer of Auckland back in the 1980s, was arguably one of New Zealand's greatest proponents of fluoridation. In fact, he was so good that as an Auckland City Councillor, he was mainly responsible for the fluoridation of Auckland City, and was later given the job of selling the idea of fluoridation for the whole of New Zealand. Then he discovered that he'd been living a lie. He found that children right throughout New Zealand that were not living in fluoridated areas had better teeth than those that did. He was alarmed at the numbers of children, absolutely alarmed at the numbers of children in fluoridated areas that were showing signs of fluoride intoxication, with their teeth becoming mottled with dental fluorosis. He then went against his management in spite of their warnings not to, and told the public. He lost his job. What a big surprise. One very relevant statement he made was that he could not be part of an organisation that was pushing for the poisoning of our children. Do your research, Ms. Senior Lecturer from Auckland University. Thank you.